Okay, so you want me to talk about maybe some more stuff on the Bible? Yeah, there's a bit of new stuff we found. It's also happened yesterday. One of the researchers here, he actually drove up from Sydney to see me, and when he left my house, he got pulled over by the police. So and they weren't ready for us. we're warmed up. Yep. The detail, yes, I've migrated. So I'll just go over what I've been putting up and what we've learned in the last couple of sort of last month or so. We found that there's two lots of the Bible. The King James Bible is actually fraudulent. It's con job. And if you have a look at the word Lord written as the capitalized capitals, so that has the larger L, the uppercase L, which is larger than the ORD. So let this guy sit down. Hi, new people. So yeah, so with John, thanks, and turn me on. So the Bible, the King James Bible appears to be, that's the corporate version of the Bible. That's the bastardized version with the Lord appears 6,000 times written incorrectly. There's one called the Jerusalem Bible that Rom's found that's correct. I had the Joyce Meyer one. Someone just happened to give it to me the other day, and I noticed that there was a difference. So that's where that video came from. And that's that Bible. They get you to swear the oath on it. You're swearing an oath on a corporate Bible. You're pretty much screwed, I think. It's taking the Lord's name in vain, which is an ecclesiastical crime. So that's actually quite a big thing we found, being that Bible being corporate. No one's actually, because I only did that video a week ago, no one's actually tried it in the court yet, so I'll be really interested to see if any of you guys get to try that one in the court. Let me know how it goes. So the whole system is actually called Law Latin, which we found in Webster's Dictionary 1956. It's not in the older dictionaries. It's actually quite hard to find. If you Google Law Latin, you won't get anything. It doesn't come up as a definition. It's very well hidden. But Law Latin is a corrupted version of law used in the Middle Ages in England. So that's, you guys have it over there. So the Law Latin is, yeah, it is literally just a corrupted version of law, and the way they are corrupting it is with the GLOSSA, the all capitals. I think that where the research is leading us, and I think I said in one of the videos, I don't like talking about the Bible too much because I sound like a bit of a religious nut, but if you write God backwards, you get dog. Everybody knows that. And, you know, Amen, if you rearrange those letters, that's an anagram of name. With the dog one, Anubis, you guys might know, was the Egyptian god of the underworld, the slavery. So I think when they wanted to change you from, rather than now where we have a contract to change your agreement, I think the Egyptians actually had a different god for your different stages of life. So the afterlife, when you were dead, you were considered to be under Anubis's control, and I think that has been passed down through the ages. And the Christian Bible is. Are you all familiar with the Dog Latin that we've been talking about? Guys, just yeah, yep, okay. So Dog Latin. Latin is actually the meaning of Latin is hidden. It doesn't. It's not like the word English or, you know, Chinese meaning a nationality or a language. Latin actually means hidden. So when you're talking about, you know, Dog Latin that we found not so long ago, that's coming back now as the hidden dog, the hidden god in the Bible. So this is how they've hidden this Anubis into the Christian Bible. And I was literally only talking to Rom this afternoon about all this. So this is brand new research. So that was the finding this afternoon, with Anubis being hidden in the actual Christian Bible. And the other thing was soldier. You can't be a soldier without being sold. Soldiers are considered legally dead. And if you want to go a bit further into it, it's soul dies. So your soul is actually considered dead, and therefore you're transferred to the god of Anubis. Another interesting find we had, I think you've probably seen it in my videos, I've got the Australian Government Styles Manual. I think you guys use the Oxford. The Australian government one tells us what the capitalised capitals are, which is the Lord in the Bible, or on the US $1 bill. They use it as well, and Australian money has just stopped using it because they wrote a letter to the Federal Reserve and they've gone back to using the dog Latin rather than the capitalised capitals. So if you've got, say, the word Lord with a large L and then a lower but still uppercase ORD, that's actually an epitaph. So if you go to any graveyard, you'll see that that's how they write it. They use one large capital letter, then the rest in lower capital letters. So that symbolises the dead. And if you Google the US Supreme Court and have a look at how they write all their text and all the US dollar bills, the US are using this system a lot. It's coming down to now that capitalised capitals is the epitaph for the dead individual, the civilly dead you, which is that surname, that corporate name that they're putting into the court, because it has to be dead because it's just a piece of paper and it's written on the piece of paper as an account. An account is not a living thing, but the living thing holding the account, which is you, is responsible for all the bills placed on that account. So in a nutshell, that's sort of the new research that we've found. Any questions at this point, anyone? Even Japan, yeah. Yeah, all those Asian countries now, they're bringing in the reverse surnames. So, no, sorry, it's a little bit muffled back that far. Yep, yep. Uh, that's the Gideon's one I've been looking at, but they're not even allowed to print the Bible. The only people that can print the Bible is the Oxford University Press and one other company in London. And so everyone who's printing a Bible who's not those two people don't have the right to print it. So that's why they're printing a corporate version of it. But the King James, if you read right at the end, right at the last bit, it tells you if you remove anything from the Bible, you'll get really sick and die. But that's actually what they've done. There's certain sections that don't appear in the in the King James that do appear in the Jerusalem Bible. I've yet to sit down and go page to page and actually check it out. But yeah, guys, if they get you to swear an oath, I mean, obviously the Bible tells you never take an oath or swear, but if you are taking them and you're taking them on this false Bible and you're giving a corporate name, that's where they're nailing you to that contract, you know. I was looking at bonded paper today to find out what it is, because your birth certificate is printed on bonded paper, and the bonded paper, it's a heavy duty paper now, that but it was printed on heavy duty paper because it was a very important document. But they're government bonds, and a government bond is something that will be paid on face value at a later date. So what they do is they give you the government bond, they on-sell that, say, through the New York Stock Exchange or whichever exchange they're going to use, and you're the guy or the girl who's going to pay the bill. And that's how they get you to hold it, and that's how they avoid, I guess, going to hell themselves or committing any sort of ecclesiastical sin and having the church, the bishop of the church, come down on them, because they're going, well, that's not a real Bible. We don't have to worry about going to hell. So yeah, that's what your birth certificate is a government bond, and that's how the government can trade you.
Right, I've got something to add this week. I phoned up the probate office this week, and yeah, it's actually quite funny, because what's happened now is I was asking who the chief officers were, and they couldn't tell me. So I said, well, who's in charge? And it was the Royal Courts of Injustice down in London. So I said, well, but I was asking who was it. They said, well, the Queen. I was like, but who's under the Queen? And no one could tell me anything. And when I asked if they were a private company or a public company, they said that they worked for the government. So I said, well, okay, that's fine, but you must be a franchise then, working for them. So who's your boss? And they were really cagey, so they didn't have anything else to say to me then. So,
yeah, we've been having the same thing here. They keep trying to cut Rom's power off because he won't accept the bill. in the gloss format. And they came out to cut his power off, and the guy ended up ringing up his company that he worked for, and they did the same thing to him. They wouldn't even tell their own employee their own surname. So we've been getting that. I've got an outstanding matter with, I don't know if you watch the videos, but I said I was going to print my own money, and I've seized a big, about $70 million worth of property down on the beach here. And so I sent the government another letter going, look, I did this 12 months ago, now I'm going to move on to the land. And I got a letter back just saying, oh, we'll look into it. And I gave them 14 days again to object, but they still haven't objected. The funny thing with all this is the people who are supposed to be running our country, so in your case, you know, you've got the Prime Minister, probably the Queen, we've got a Prime Minister here as well, they're not high enough in this system, in the corporate system, to actually be able to act or even know about this. So they're copying it, and they should have authority to be able to act and do something about this, but they don't. They don't even have a clue. So I'm waiting for this letter to come back from this guy who's actually the Deputy Prime Minister. And, you know, did you guys see that news story where Johnny Depp got his dogs kicked out of the country here when he was filming Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, that politician is actually the one I'm dealing with. He's our local member. So he's the one that Johnny Depp called the tomato. But he got back to me, and because I asked originally about the Oxford Styles Manual, I took that into the office, and they said, well, that's the Oxford Styles Manual, that's English, we don't use that, even though they're meant to. And then I found the Australian Styles Manual, I took that back in, and they actually looked at it. The answer I got from the Attorney General's office is that's not a legal document, so it's not in itself an offence to create a document that doesn't comply with the Styles Manual. And he's right, whoever said that, who replied to me, because it's not a legal document, it's a lawful document, and they do have to comply with it if I'm out of the system. If it's a legal document and I'm in the system, they don't have to comply with the standards of English, because they've obviously contracted me not to use the standards of English. Now that I'm post-liminary, and as you found, post-liminium. Yeah, so they're really having trouble trying to deal with me, and I get literally no letters from the government anymore, even when I want to get one out of them. So with that outstanding, no one has actually disagreed to me taking this property. And I spoke to a real estate agent that said if I develop it, it's worth about 300 million. So that's over twice the CQV trust amount. So I'm just going to take it. I'm going to move down the beach and move on. I've got quite a little following here now of sort of activists who are ready to come down. So that's probably my next move, is to go and seize that property. So explain that one.
Just, I've got a bit closer there. Obviously, you know, that your government's obviously doing the foolishness down there. How are they pseudo servants, meaning police, because they're pseudo? How are they actually dealing with you at the moment? The government tried to send them into contract with you. They're trying to get you beaten up. How's that happening with the police at the minute? Are they kind of leaving you alone, or what's going on that front?
Yeah, look, the police with me in the local town here. It was quite funny. I accidentally met a police officer on a dating website until she said, "Are you the guy in the videos?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Are you a cop?" And she went, "Yeah." And that was it. We they're doing this really strange thing. One of the guys down here, we've got a husband and wife, sergeant and constable team, and the wife is a sergeant here. And her husband just keeps doing this funny wave thing to me, so I think they've actually been told to steer clear of me. I haven't spoken to them. The other night, like I said, I actually had a researcher come up from Sydney and speak to me here, and he dropped me off back at home, and he drove around the corner, and the police had pulled him over for a breath test, and he rang me straight away. So I'm on the phone telling him what to say, and I'm running down with my camera, and in the end the police just said, "Look, if you count to 10, we'll let you go," i.e. meaning count to 10 into the breath test machine. So he just counted to 10 without doing it into the machine. And then he said, "Can I go?" I counted to 10. He's like, "No, you've got to do it in the machine." He said, "You didn't say that." He said, "If I can count to 10, I can go." So eventually he gave the breath test, and he was driving without a license. He's got his own car that's unlicensed, but he didn't bring it up. He bought his I think his stepfather's four-wheel drive, so he didn't want to be pulled over so we could get our time together and speak. But the police went away and they said, look, came back and said, we've identified you. And he said, how did you do that? I haven't told you who I am yet. So they've just made the assumption to get rid of him. So the police here are really scared of this. They're really starting to react, and they are walking away every opportunity. They won't engage me. There's a warrant out for my arrest, and they just ignore it. So it's not a serious warrant, but they still are ignoring it. So that's where we are with the police, and the government really just. I don't think they've actually got the authority to engage us, because when you step back into the becoming post-liminary and you manumitted, manumitted was what they did with slaves in Rome when they wanted to free a slave. And if you have a look at the word, it's man you admitted, so you've come back into being a man. You're no longer the office of person. And because you're no longer the office of person, that corporation has no contract and therefore no jurisdiction over you. It's luck of the draw as to which cop you get, whether they're going to actually, let you go, or they're going to be silly enough to take you to court. So, but yeah, here they've really realised that there's a problem, the police more so than anybody, which was interesting that it's gone from the bottom up. With Rom's last court case, they found him guilty. He pleaded guilty. They said he was guilty in the court, but he walked out and the police were left with an unsigned warrant. They just would not sign it, and the police tried to give him this unsigned warrant. They just took it back and said, this is a load of crap. And they took it to the internal affairs in the Cairns police station, and the police there said that they don't know what to do and that we're having an effect on morale. The police in Cairns are actually starting to refusing to arrest people because they don't know whether they've got the authority to or not. So we're really having some good wins with it all. It's been quite interesting, but they are backing down, and Rom hasn't been hassled since. There's a few in New South Wales police seem a bit smarter than Queensland. They back down a lot more quickly when they run into this. The courts here have also noted to some of our people who are going through the system that there's a lot of us happening. They're getting a lot of these free men arguments coming through. Some are better than others, but yeah, so that's where we're at with that.
In terms of the actual government, then, so police are leaving you alone because they're totally different over here. They're completely out of control over here. So in terms of the government, they've acknowledged this and they're doing that. Are they trying to, in terms of not agents, so to speak, coming in? Because obviously you're going to be exposing this to obviously other people. How are they trying to shoot? Because obviously I know you put stuff out there publicly, because I'm not out there publicly. But when you expose this publicly and more people are saying, "Oh, we want to do this, we want to do this," how are they trying to shut you down in that way? What have they been trying to do on that kind of front to try and shut you down? And how are they trying to scare other people from you giving out the information that you're doing?
Oh yeah, they're definitely trying it on. Glenn, who came up to see me, and he was the one who found the law Latin. He tried this in the court the other day quite successfully in a court in Sydney called Downing Centre, which is our main magistrates court. The three police got him in a lift and beat him up so badly they broke his ribs, and he actually had the Styles manual on him when they did that, and he was trying to show them, here's how to write a name, page 121. So they broke his ribs and touched him up, but it didn't deter him. I can't get on Facebook. Every time I get on Facebook, I simply just get the police just hassle me off there. There's a particular cop in Tasmania, was he? Sergeant Anthony Rohan. We found a picture of him in bike pants, so we call him Captain Lycra. But he was involved seriously in trying to hassle us I've got phone calls, actually, recorded phone calls. I'll put some on the G2 channel. But he was involved in every time I make a Facebook. That's why I've just gone back to using YouTube, because I just cannot get on Facebook. That's being completely censored for me. So they have tried. We've got new $5 notes here. I wrote a letter to the Reserve Bank asking them why they're using that capitalised capitals, the dead epithet language. So they changed, whether it was me or not, I don't know, but they've changed the money back to being just the dog Latin now, which is it's ridiculous. It's going to cause them just as many problems, but I didn't mention that in the first letter. So another letter, and it might be another $200 million to print a new round of $5 notes. Who knows? Probably cheaper to give me the $200 million and tell me to shut up. So I'm just going to go through some text. I had some stuff that was sent to me from... Oh, Rom said to say g'day too. So, g'day everybody from Rom. Where are we? So Rom is really good at the accounting side of thing and how it all works. So even though your Christian name can still be glossed and it's still a fraudulent account, that's technically how we're meant to be accessing the CQV trust. Rom's going down that road. He is looking at how to access it. I don't know if you guys have had any more success than we have, but we're still sort of banging our heads against the wall. I think I told you I did that UPU contract. I did wasn't a UCC Form 1, but it was something similar, and I sent it to the Treasury here, and they just returned it to sender. So that is a legal thing. If the Treasurer of Australia can do it, and he signed for it, opened it, read it, put it back, and I had the UPU international postage stamps on it. And so they didn't know how to deal with it, so they literally just returned it to sender. So when they're trying to send you stuff, you just return it to sender yourself.
That's right, but what you need to do now, you need to get hold of the Postmaster General, whoever runs the Australian Post Office. You need to get hold of them and send that, put a claim into them and use them as your food assurance. Yeah.
Look, I'm just going to walk onto the property and take it. I mean, that's bugger that, because no one's put up any objection to me taking the property. If there's no objection, there's no conflict. There's no conflict. There's no reason to go to a court of law, is there? Everybody's agreed to everything. That's it. Everyone's happy.
All right. If that's the case, and you do that, if they don't, if they decide they're going to arrest you and all hell breaks loose, because you know what happened to Santos Bonacci a little while ago when they just banged him up because he was talking about all this stuff and he exposed them all. I was looking at this recently. You have got some remedy. If your Postmaster General in Australia doesn't deal with it, what you need to do at the same time is what I told you. You need to look at the Postal Union's website, and it's a guy called, is a Kenyan national, something Al Hussein something. What you're supposed to do is you notify him at the same time about the Postmaster in Australia being corrupt. Because what it is, if you get the UPU convention, it clearly states they can't commit mail fraud. What I've been getting to do, and I've explained, is when she's been writing to them using handwritten letters, which obviously you've been using the UPU stuff yourself, which does work. The issue what the government's doing is they return to sender because they can't deal with the real you. But the issue is when if they return it to sender, your contract, if you state in your contract that you as a man stand as the man, the moment they open that and they've read it, your contract still stands. So if they don't give you the remedy that you seek, if they then send that back in dishonour, they're committing mail fraud. Now, most of the time, when they wrote back to you, did they write back to the legal fiction? Did they write back in black, or did they write back? Did he give you a written response, or did you get any response from them at all?
It was just the torn-up registered post envelope with the original letter in. I haven't actually opened it, but the original letter in it, nothing added to it, and it was all sticky taped up to cover the rips they put in it. It was literally just returned to sender with no acknowledgement whatsoever. But I do have the original signature from it. I had an AR card, so it's all been signed for and that, and it was just returned without signature. So technically it still stands. They've read it, they've accepted it. They haven't actually cancelled it or done anything like that. They've just returned it to sender, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's still it's still been served. So
yeah, if you got a receipt when you first sent it off under UPU jurisdiction, your contract originally stands. So if they now won't give you the remedy you seek, that's when you take it to the Postmaster General over there, which they're corrupt totally, because I found this out through Karen Nudis that in America they've been totally corrupt. But what she did, and she mentioned it in her interview she did recently, is that you then take it to the UPU directly under their convention, and you do them for mail fraud. Get the big devil to come and deal with the little devil. So you get the top idiots to come and deal with their own property, because what they're doing is they're pulling you from your private side totally, which you're in, into their pseudo side and just getting to draw off your bonds off your estate. So what you're doing is you're cutting them short completely out of the way. But the issue is what happens is most times over here, people, the pseudo so-called police or these so-called people in government, what they're doing is they'll ignore you, but what's happening, and you'll probably find yourself, is that we're not getting any kind of remedy. And what you want is them to totally leave you alone and for you to be able to do your own thing. So the last side of this that I've been looking into recently is the Director General at the UPU, and said, look, this is your convention. Every corporation on this planet has a contract with that UPU. Great Britain does, Australia does. I've got all the countries. They've all got a contract with that UPU. So long as you write to them and you don't use numbers. Don't use numbers when you write to them. Give your address, but you can't use numbers, because the moment you use numbers, it puts it back under their jurisdiction. So just use your address, use the location, but without numbers. Once you're doing that, that takes the numbers out of it, so there's no contract in terms of any kind of legal fiction issues. And then once you've done that, then your side of it is the fact that you've got your contract there with them, they've not honoured it, and that's you send that to your whoever's UPU head in your country. If they don't then deal with it, you let them know that you're going to take it internationally, and then you need to be indicting them under more appropriate and start dealing with them on that front. I think we all need to start doing that, because everybody's sick and tired of this foolishness, and we don't need none of it in the first place. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Unidroit. Have you looked into that one yet? Yeah, so Unidroit goes through our Attorney General's office, and it takes it back to Rome. And if you have a look at the Unidroit conventions, it says they have to do everything in, all the contracts must be done in fairness. Yeah. Now, if they're not telling you that your surname is a corporate logo, they are telling you it's a surname, and a surname is not a name, otherwise it would be called a name. But you really use the Unidroit. When Rom dropped that name in court, that was the end of it. They just freaked and said, no, you're right to go. So he did apologise to Rom, the magistrate, and said, I just needed to know what you know. So I think the UPU and Unidroit are somehow linked. I think there's something there. The post obviously is the process. I think the Unidroit principles are the conditions, the terms and conditions that the post turns up under. So you've got your delivery service here, and then your control mechanism over here, which is run by, and you can actually look up the address, it's in Rome, and I imagine it's something to do with the Vatican. So yeah, but the Unidroit principles, they are quite good, they're quite fair. It's just that you don't realise that you've tacitly consented to these contracts by opening the mail. So that's where it all falls over, and ignorantis juris nominum, ignorance excuses no one. And there was another funny little one that I keep mentioning, that maxim of law from Black's Law, which is fraus merita fraudum, which is fraud merits fraud. So if you're holding a fraudulent birth certificate with a fraudulent surname on it, corporate language, that was the other thing I think I found was when I was looking at Lucifer, so in lieu of the cipher is a code. I knew a cipher was a code, but the last definition of cipher is to write in an occult language, and there's your occult language, your dog Latin, your Anubis dog hiding there. So the second you open the Anubis contract, you've entered into the world of the dead. That's your flat earth, because it's a bit of paper, and I think that's what the church kept talking about. And they also call it a family name. Now, a family name in Latin was familiaris, and a familiaris was a household, and that included your wife, your kids, and your slaves. But back in Roman times, your family were your slaves. You could kill your son if he defamed you or stole from you, things like that. So that's the funny thing that the church wants to keep going. The two things they want to keep going are heterosexual marriage, because that way they can link the female who doesn't technically have the trust or didn't have the trust to the male's trust, so they can pay the bills. There's your first accounting thing. The second accounting thing was the family unit, because that's actually a little jurisdiction in itself. And so that's where the family name came in, was that the patriarch of the house was the head of that jurisdiction, and he could be under another, they call it subjugation himself, so he became a subject. And that was something interesting I found, is that we have anti-slavery laws, and I'm sure you guys have anti-slavery laws there as well, with subjugation. So you guys are all considered lawfully subject to the Queen of England, would that be correct?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So if you look up the definition of slavery in Black's Law, slavery is actually a condition of subjugation. So if slavery is illegal, then subjugation is illegal. So how did you guys become subjects when it's illegal? It's because you agreed. with the birth certificate or opening the mail. But if you want to get out, I mean, there's a great way. I mean, just put Black's Law definition into a court and going, I cannot possibly be a subject because a subject is a slave. Slavery is illegal. You hear it's 25 years imprisonment. It's probably similar over there. That copper's going to be looking down the barrel of some serious prison time for putting you in there when you're not actually a subject of the Queen of England. But you have, obviously, the Roman, my message is you have to be post-liminary. You have to be out of the system for this to work. But when you are, it works really well. they are running for the hills. So, any questions on that one? This subjugation, and anyone got any general questions you want to ask while I'm here?
Well, it's not a question as such, but I had a friend from Ireland contact me, and they said they're having great success with using GLOSSA over there. What they're doing is when they're getting any court paperwork, they're writing back saying, can you tell me what language this is in, because we've checked for the Oxford Styles manual and this isn't English, so can you tell me what language you're using and what dictionaries you're using, and the cases are just disappearing.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're having here too. They've been caught out. That's it. It's very simple. They use it's Dog Latin. It's the language of the occult, or it could be the grave one. So, and when they're putting boxes around things, the box rules in the Australian Styles menu, a box cannot be read with any other information. So if they've got a statement and every single page is boxed off and you've got a 17-page statement, so that's 17 different documents. Our birth certificates here are actually 17 documents because you've got what's outside the boxes and then you've got all the boxes. So each one of them is a separate document. So when they're looking at the birth certificate, which document are they using out of that 17? You've got to check because the information can't be read together. It can be read additionally, but not together. So, but that's really, thank you for telling me about Ireland. That's fantastic that this is actually starting to go places. So I know Anna von Ritz, I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she's been looking into our stuff as well, and it's been going into the States. And I think her words when she found out was she needed a Bex and a lie down when she found out about the GLOSSA.
Yeah, I know she's familiar with stuff, but when I've listened to her interview she did the other day talking about what's going on over there. Just a quick, are you familiar with the Silk Road and what the Jesuits are trying to bring in, this new beast? Because obviously what you're doing is exposing this current system, and they're realising is that most of us lot, the Jesuit Roman cult, know that they're going to have to somehow, because remember they need us, we don't need them. So they're now bringing this new beast under the Silk Road stuff, under the Knights of the Somme. So how are you going to decide to deal with that? That's what I'm going to ask you. Have you looked into that, and how are you going to combat that?
Look, I haven't looked into it, but the thing is, they haven't had authority to make a law for a very long time. Correct. So the only way they can actually go forward is to go backwards and actually find out at what point they brought this system in and where the laws all stood, and go back and try and put in a government that is de jure from that point. To fix the system, there'll be two things they could do. They could legalise fraud, or they could legalise slavery. And neither of those things are going to be possible because they're they're a de facto government, and Black's Law tells you immediately the first thing, a de facto government is illegal. So when you're out of the system, they've got no way of moving forward or doing anything because they never had the power to start with. These people that are currently they inherited a corporate legacy which has given them the option of, we inherited a corporate contract from our parents and so on and so on, and it goes backwards. So that, until they fix that and go back, what they've inherited is a system with a huge flaw in it. So they don't have anywhere to go once we know about this.
Yes.
They can't go, okay, that's broken, we're going to fix it, because we can go, hang on, you don't have the authority to fix it, you never did. Yeah. So I guess that would be, from where we stand now, the way we would look at that they're just completely, they are literally completely powerless. And that video with me with the copper, just going no contract, that says it all, because that's what it is. It's a contract, and if they want to fix it, they've somehow got to get you into another tacit contract with some other type of language. And now that we know that the Bibles are screwed up, they're really in trouble, because, I mean, if they hand you the Bible to take an oath, and you grab it and you go, well, that's fake, and hand it back, what happens to your court? Everyone's just going to sit around until they find I'll race down the library and get a real one. Hang on. They're really in a lot of trouble with this. Hey, this is.
I just wonder how you
And people like you guys getting the information. I know there's not a huge amount of us yet, but the fact that Rom and I can put this information into your hands is a very powerful thing, because you guys are going to act on it and cause some problems for them. So thank you very much for taking all this on board. We do really appreciate it. So.
I intend on waking up more people, even though it's not our responsibility to do it, because I think more the few of us that will get out will get out. Go on, say that again.
Yeah,
The police are on their way to get you, are they? You talking about Roman guy in Australia. But yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. People are waking up to it slowly. It is very complicated to get your head around. It sort of looks so obvious to me, but I've got to remember I've been doing this since I was 27 and pretty seriously for the last 10 years. So as we wake people, a lot of people are really offended by it. They really hate it. I guess, they're so heavily invested in the system, and they rely so much on the money, and they spend so much time building up this sort of wealth portfolio, and for me to turn around and go, by the way, you don't own any of that, they get annoyed. But I mean, that's the difference between a allodial title and legal title. That split title thing where they keep the allodial title for themselves, give you the legal title. You think legal title means you own it. It just means you're the trustee for it and you pay the bills. And they may license you to actually touch the property in the case of a car. But you try touching that car without a license, and that's when all hell breaks loose, because a trustee cannot do anything. An interesting word you might want to look up, guys, is curator. I thought they were guys that look after museums, but a curator is someone who takes care of property as if it was their own, but is not their own. Now, that's what happens to your parents the second they register you, is they go from being a parent to a curator. And you go from being their child to being a ward of the state. And that's that's why they've got to, you've got to do that's why the government can make laws about how you bring up your child, because they own your child. You don't. You're just a curator. You look after it as if it was your own, but if you don't do it correctly, imagine if you were a curator and you started kicking in artworks. They're going to have your ass pretty quickly, and it's the same thing with your child. As their child, once that registration went through, that corporate bond, you became property of the corporation. You give it back, and then they're in all sorts of trouble because your contract is cancelled. And cancelling is an interesting thing to look up in Black's law as well. So to cancel a contract, you just deface it, you write across it cancelled. You can write your reason. A bit of an expert at cancelling things. She's good at the mail. So talk to her. Recorded for fraud, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. No, someone just asked me what age you can actually come out and out of the system. So I presume that we can do it at any age. As soon as they've got a birth certificate, we can then hand it back.
Well, look, it's the age of majority, which is you go through a couple of different stages. You go through tutela, which is your sort of from when you're born to when you're hit puberty, which is in the Bible. So that's tutela. Then you turn into Cuba. Cuba goes on from puberty up to whenever. So technically the age is 20. So the day you turn 21, and that's why we got the key, because that's the actual sestivae. It was actually a key. You went to the government, you took your bond in, you gave them the key, which was the birth certificate. They've been holding your money because you weren't of legal age, and you actually took your key to your safety deposit box and you got out your gold, and then the government had no more dealings with you because you were then responsible for your affairs. So 21 seems to be the age, but the age of majority, I think you can come out, if you wanted to do that earlier. There's no reason. It's just that 7-year lost at sea thing kicks in from that 21st birthday. So then when you turn 28, you technically try getting a home loan under 28, and that's why it's so hard, because you haven't been missing at sea for 7 years. They can't access the money as easy because you can still come back, and they've got to give it back to you. And they lose it, they've got to pay for it.
All right then, thank you.
No worries.
Anyone else? Cool, people have must have questions on this.
The information's brilliant, but it's still. I've got no questions.
Anyone else got any questions? Yes, we've got one.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just going to ask you, I've recently woken up to all of this, so it's all very new to me. And at the moment, my neighbour, it was a neighbour dispute mine, and my neighbour's actually changed my number on my house. I changed my house to Patel Cottage because it was really relevant for me, and I did it with the postal system. It was all official, and now she's trying to steal my house, and she's got the backup of the council, the courts, and I don't want to go back into the courts. I understand your dog latching stuff, but I don't know how to apply it, and I'd like some advice on that.
You look, so have a look. We have Criminal Code Acts here. You would have something very similar there. I don't know. You guys don't work on states over there, do you? You don't have states as such. Do you have like local jurisdiction law, or is it council law? Paul, you can probably answer that one for me.
We also have regions as well, so it's regional stuff now.
Probably go for the highest law. Go for something like, you know, your national law there, and try and find the fraud section. There'll be a section on fraud. Now that's the one you can use because that's actually the crime they're committing is fraud. So a very serious offence is fraud, or obtaining a financial advantage by deception. And these are, so all you have to really do is write a letter back in English and go, look, I can't understand this language. I think you're committing fraud. Here's the act, and this is the punishment. And send a copy to your neighbour, send a copy to the council, but send a copy to the police as well, and ask them to act. And fraud merits fraud, so that's the hard one to get out of, because if you're holding any documents that are fraudulent yourself, technically you're involved in the fraud. But you can plead a bit of ignorance here that you're not quite sure and you want it all cleared up, and just go, I need to know what language this is, and are you committing fraud to do it by using this combination of English and Dog Latin. Refer to the Styles Manual. You want chapter 5.3.1, tells you how to write a correct name. And that'll basically...
Is the correct name the same as the Miller technology? Is that the same?
I don't know what that is, Miller technology.
Windmiller.
David Windmiller.
David Windmiller, she's on about.
Oh, I don't know.
No, is it
I'm-
colon, capital letter, then lowercase, hyphen if you've got a second name? No?
No, that's absolutely... We've got another guy here, and I had a big argument with him about it. That won't work.
Okay.
That
fine.
look, Oxford Styles Manual, our Styles Manual, the Chicago Styles Manual all tell you you write a name is one space and one capital letter. That's it.
Okay.
That's a name, very simple. And that's a name of any proper noun. So even if your property name is called something different, or the street name or whatever, they're not writing it correctly. And you just hit them up and go, if they're going to try and arrest you for fraud because you're holding the paperwork, the legal title to your house, they're going to have to arrest themselves as well because they've got the same documents. So even though you're still in the system, if you bring it up, they've got to arrest everybody. Literally, they've got to go and throw everyone in jail if they want to arrest you for the same crime. So I just bring it up with them and go, look, this is fraud. This is the act. This is the penalty. It's been handed on to the police, and this is what will come up in a court of law. I will call everyone as a... Because remember, when anyone takes you to court, they're taking themselves to court just as much. And if they did take you to court, say they charged you with something, put in the doomsday defence. So if you've watched that video, it's a plea of demurrer. And the demurrer is that there's something wrong with their case. And what's wrong with it is they've used fraudulent documents. So grab my email address off so you can get hold of me directly. I won't say it here but any of you guys here, you're welcome to contact me directly, but I won't put it out because if this video goes onto YouTube, I'll get a billion emails. It's already happened once. So yeah, get in contact with me, and you can just scan any paperwork and I'll have a good look at it for you and write up a letter, and you can post it back to them.
God bless you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. No worries. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Rowan. Nice to
G'day.
nice to see you again. What do you think of writing to the Treasury? Because the CK Trust, actually, I'm the beneficiary of that trust.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
According to the bankruptcy of 1931, we were the living people were the securities for the bankruptcy. Is that correct?
It sounds about right.
So what I'm saying is that trust belongs to me and everybody else. All their trusts belong to everybody in this room. And being beneficiary of the trust, I could send all my bills to the Treasury and say I want them setting up against the trust. What do you think of that?
Look, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. The problem is you're dealing with criminals.
Correct.
They absolutely do not want this information out. They do not want to play by the rules, which is exactly the same problem we're having in Australia. And I've noticed that a lot of researchers, including you guys, America, and some we've got around Australia here, are all trying to access directly to the CQV Trust by making a deal. I guess to answer the question, is a deal with the devil ever going to work? And I don't think it is. I think you're better off drawing a circle round, because this is how I did it. You draw a circle around the property you want, find the allotment number, send them a contract going on taking this in lieu of the CQV Trust until you actually do your job, because you're in breach of your trust as on the beneficiary, and just take it, put commercial lien on whatever you want and move on. I think now it's come time to act. We've done enough negotiation, we've done enough parole. They're not agreeing with us. You guys know that parole is the talking prior to a contract, yeah? Before the contract gets signed, you try and get in. And if they're refusing to negotiate with you, they're refusing to talk to you, then they're in dishonour, they're in breach. Send them 3 copies of the contract and just take it. I mean, they're going to have to try and kick you off, but if you know enough about, as I was just mentioning, the fraud laws, the police here won't pull their ID out to me because they know I'm just going to pull them up on camera for it being fraudulent, and that they're committing a very serious criminal offence while you're just simply trying to access your trust, which is under their law, under the CQV, what is it, the Cestui Act 1666, you're simply asserting your rights. And they're turning up trying to incorporate you into something that you don't have to be. Now, you don't have to be a member of a corporation under Article 20.2 of the Human Rights Declaration. So, you know, that there's your evidence there. And sorry, go ahead.
There is a lot. Another thing you can do is put a fiasco deed poll in and say I'm going to collapse the trust. What do you think?
Yeah, but we've tried all this stuff and they're just not doing it. I mean, we've worked out how the system should work, and yes, you're absolutely correct. What do you do when you're dealing with a criminal? You know, you're going to have to act and actually start arresting these guys and dragging them into a court yourself, because you have been given that authority by the government to arrest anybody committing a crime against you. It's just harder when they've got the guns and there's a lot more of them. But Rom's got a video. It's not on the GLOSSA channel, it's another one, but he actually arrested a police officer who just stood there like a stunned mullet when he did it. But technically that arrest stands, and he's at large, because once you're arrested, if they leave, they're fleeing lawful custody. You didn't give them permission to go. So but it does take a lot of sort of fortitude to be able to do this thing to these people, because they've got formal authority and we're acting under informal authority. However, our informal authority here is actually affecting them to the point where they won't act against us. So we are having an effect, and maybe that's something you guys can look at as well. I watch a lot of you guys having those eviction things over there. I'm watching a lot of those. Now, they're not evictions because the IDs are actually incorrect. They're actually something called an ouster, and an ouster is a crime. An ouster is someone turning up to your house and dragging you outside. So you've got to start calling these things what they are and going, you can't evict me, because they're not evicting you, they're oustering you. So, you know, you've got to turn up and go, you can't ouster us. Here's the paperwork. Here's the allodial. Create yourself, in English language, an allodial title for your property in your house. Because if you've got an allodial title document and they've got a legal title document in dog Latin, and you walk in there with the Styles Manual, I mean, I can tell you now who's going to win that case. That magistrate is not going to go against it. And even take your own, you know, Bible in there, the real one. Get them to swear on that and see what they do.
I'd like to just say some other thing. Because we're in truth, we're telling the truth. My understanding is the laws of the universe, they're finished. Long term, they're finished. That's my understanding anyway.
Well, it depends which universe you're talking about. You know, if you look at the word uni in verse, it's the one word. So is it the one corporate word? Is it the surname? You know, I do that little thing with the two worlds. Which world are you branching off? Which universe are you going to be in the Christian one, or are you going to be in the corporate one? And there's another one which is the real, which is just naturalis, the actual world as it exists, which is the third one, which is why they call people tribal, because there's the three, you know, you're Christian, you're corporate, and your man or woman status.
If you actually look on the birth certificate, it says warning in big letters, do not use this for identification.
Yeah, there's a good reason for that.
So I thought, when I nearly fell off my chair when I actually looked. I had to get a birth certificate 3.5 years ago, and I thought, God, they can only do so much because there must be a higher power above them.
Yeah, because and that's what I'm saying is
that
we can't.
Yeah, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier, we can't access the CQV trust because the people that we get to deal with are the wrong ones. They're not high enough up the food chain. The ones that we need to get to, and now the one I want to get to is that Lord Nathan Rothschild. He's one of the guys who's running this, but he's so well insulated I can't get through to him. So if you guys see him in the street, just give him my number, will you?
I don't know whether you know, we've got a state within a state, which is the City of London. And the Lord Mayor,
I know
the Lord Mayor is put there by the Pope. And I wrote to Mansion House twice, and they never denied what was in that letter. So if I write to the Treasury now, they can't do anything because I've got a letter higher up than them proving what I've said, because they never answered it.
Well, that's exactly right. And because I haven't answered the letter, you've got tacit consent. They've agreed to every term and condition you've put in. So that's all you do, write your 3 letters and do what you want. And if the police are going to come along, just have your styles manual. It's a bit big for your back pocket. Maybe you get some special pants made, but, you know, have it ready.
It's
your GLOSSA pants.
Yeah, been fantastic. It's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you. Good luck and thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, doesn't like there's any more questions for you, but thanks ever so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Oh, my pleasure as always.
And I'll hopefully speak to you tomorrow night or something. If you're around.
Yeah, I'll see if I get on. I'll show you my mobile number too. I'll send you an email just so if you ever want to actually call me, because if this Skype thing goes down, you'll be able to just get me and we can have a chat quickly to get it organised so we don't get any more problems. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure, Don. I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy. Bye.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.